Hello, I'm Brother Templar, and welcome back to Should You Get, something that I didn't actually expect to be a series, but I just realised that there's a lot of good tanks to review, and, well, you know, I do quite like making these, so make sure to expect more in the future. Now, before you is the Panzerjager 1. This is a very interesting tank indeed, and also very new. In fact, it only just came out on War Thunder yesterday, in time of recording. And yeah, definitely very, very interesting tank indeed. So, at this point in time, you're probably thinking to yourself, should you get it, should you not get it, or maybe you just want to know a bit more about it. And, well, this is where I'm going to come in. As per usual, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, and maybe even a little bit more. So, without further ado, let's get on with this. So, Panzerjager roughly translates into Tank Hunter, this being the first German tank destroyer to see service in the Second World War. Now, its service was between 1940 and 1943. The main purpose of its design was, as well as to beat many of the French heavy opposition tanks, was also to prolong the life of the 202 Panzer Is. These tanks were originally designed as actually only training tanks, something that was never really meant to see combat, so it does make sense that they would have changed the design, put a giant gun on the front, and then sent it off to battle. The Panzerjager was also incredibly light, coming in at only 6.4 tons, which actually makes it the second lightest Axis tank in War Thunder, only second to the Flak Panzer itself. However, due to this lightness, it was actually incredibly fast, and even though it only had a Maybach NL 38 100 horsepower engine, it was still capable of up to 25 miles per hour. Now, although its thin armour did help it in the means of speed, it unfortunately did make it extremely prone to high explosive weapons. This is because that due to the rear and top of it being exposed, and of course the armour is so paper thin that it didn't take much effort for even high explosive shells to penetrate it. Furthermore, it also had incredibly poor observation, this meaning that the crew couldn't really see forward unless they put their heads over the large shield, this of course exposing them for headshots from enemy rifles and machine gun fire. Now time for the breakdown of the tank, and the first thing you'll notice is its armour, or more to the point, its lack of armour. You see, the main hull is only 13mm thick, which other than light machine gun fire isn't really going to stop anything. Now you can get this millimeters up to 40mm here on this slanted slope here, but once again it's not really going to stop much, other than maybe if it deflects. As for the front of the turret, you're looking at 40mm. Once again, other than light machine gun fire, it's not really going to be stopping anything. And as you can see on the rear and top of the turret, it is completely open, so that is of course obviously going to be the weakest part of the tank. Now, the actual breech of the cannon itself is actually the strongest part of the tank at 15mm, and let's be honest, if your breech is actually the strongest part of your tank, then it's probably fair to say you don't have much armour. And indeed, the Panzerjager definitely does not. Now onto the X-ray, and you can see that it has a commander, loader and driver, and you can also see the tiny little 100 horsepower engine right here. You may also notice there is a lot of ammunition, as you can see all around here, and indeed there are 86 shells, which is a lot for this type of tank, far more than a Marder or ZIS. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive for its battle rating. Now, as you can see on the 47mm gun, you're looking with a standard round of 90mm of penetration, with a decent amount of TNT equivalent of around 15 grams of explosive, which is not a large amount, but it'll definitely mess up a good light tank. And with 90mm of penetration, there are going to be very few things you're going to come up against that you can't beat. But if that's not tickling your fancy and you want something even better, you can get the composite shell with 103mm of penetration. I mean, yeah, 90mm is more than enough, 103 is a bit overkill, but hey, that's just me. So, without further ado, let's get on to its actual abilities in the game. And the force to be reckoned with this is, as with a battle rating of 1.7, and yet it has a weapon capable of 90mm of penetration with an explosive round. This is very good, and indeed you will be able to destroy just about any tank you come up against of this battle rating. And yet, I wouldn't call this overpowered. Now this may come as a shock, but despite its fast abilities, and despite its quick reload time, and its quick repair time, and its incredible cannon, its armour is, as I've already stated, paper thin, and there is not a single enemy in this game that cannot penetrate you front on. And just a side note that behind me now you can see this is actually Frozen Pass, this being one of the new maps added, and I have to admit I really do like this map. But on with the Panzerjager again. One of my recommendations when driving this is twofold. Either use it at long range and snipe enemies with your high penetration weapon, or rush them. You're very fast and you can hit them really hard. Not to mention, with that high caliber, there is very little they can do from close range, and it can very much play to your advantage. In fact, you'll see behind me right now, I'm currently playing this map by rushing pretty much the entire time, and it very much did play to my advantage, as I've already stated. So the question now is, should you get the Panzerjager 1? Absolutely. At a 1.7 barrel rating, it is perfectly balanced around other tanks, and let me tell you when I say that it is one of the funnest tanks I have driven, and in fact probably goes in my top 10 favourite tier 1 tanks in the entire game. It is so much fun, and I don't even care half the time that I get sniped across the map due to this armour. It is just far too much fun to care. And that's really all you need to know. So if you haven't already, definitely get the Panzerjager 1 and enjoy it. I mean, there really is nothing more fun than driving at 25 miles an hour straight into the side of an enemy tank and then firing a 47mm shell straight into their cabin. So if you did like it, then please make sure to like, and if you feel so obliged, you can also comment and subscribe. I would always appreciate it. And until next time, I say thank you and goodbye.